welcome to episode 38 of the Pop Shock podcast. I am joined today by a rare beast. I'm Dan, and I've got Massimo with me. He's here.
Oh.
He's here about 40%, about 60% still in his bed.
It's not the other 60%'s left on the battlefield, mate.
On the paper battlefield.
Exactly. I never came home.
and I gas somewhere in Motherwell.
Yeah, exactly. It's my brains are all over the place.
Nah, man, I'm glad you're here. What's been happening?
Mate, I've just been out busy with uni work. I've just been existing. I've had work placement last week. It's been a busy week. So in terms of what, when we get to what we've been reading and watching, I've got very limited things to say, but the stuff I have been watching, I've been really enjoying.
To be fair, you've not been on in a long time, so and you just want to fire out with, just let us know, mate. The other fine gentleman we've got with us is Jerd, because he's here every week. But he's here again, and he looks great. How you doing?
Good, I'm good. I put a Dr. Doom head on my Magneto body, and he looks cool.
Interesting.
It's like Skeletor.
Yeah,
it's quite
Skeletor, yeah.
It's like quite Skeletor.
It's like I have the cape on Magneto, so actually, I completely forgot why that. 2 seconds.
Oh shit!
Wait for this. Did it?
Excited.
It's Doom Magneto, Captain America.
So it's like Doom Avengers with Magneto's head. Interesting.
I love it.
I can see Magneto doing something like that.
What wacky alternate universe Elseworld have we got going on there? That's.
I think pretty sure Doom is done close enough. I'm pretty sure I've seen Doom with Mjolnir and.
That's what we're doing. We're doing that's a preview for Loki season 2 right there. That's what.
I fucking hope.
Yeah, we're not going to do a full topic today. We are just going to do what you've been watching, and then we're going to do some news because there's plenty of stuff to talk about. So it's been busy. But before we dive in, Massimo, since you've not been on the while, do you want to tell us what you've been watching?
Oh, absolutely. Of course I will. So I know obviously you said, I could backtrack a wee bit, right? But I think I'll just stick to what I've actually been in this week. So I've got one for each category. I've got one for watching, one for playing, and one for reading.
Oh, I'm into it.
I'm a well-prepared man, even though, as I said, my brain's in the battlefield and my body's someone else. But I know, this week, from what I've been able to do, I have actually been diving back into it, is modded Skyrim.
Yeah, modded Skyrim in 2023. What does that look like? What does that look
like? Oh, mate, very NSFW, especially with the mod pack I downloaded. Breasts as far as I can see. Romanceable companions.
Wow.
It's like hell of a time.
So
I've got a wee spider hang following me.
It's turned out like Laser Suit Larry as opposed to Skyrim.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, trust me, my pals fucking we're all playing it. We're all partially kind of playing it now. It was like last week was the big push for it. And yeah, he just was like romancing everything, and it's just he should have watched, showing it on Discord and that, and it's ridiculous. Like
sounds like some debauchery.
It was pure debauchery. Was honestly, but that's been fun. As someone who I played Skyrim, I never completed it. The modded version is just a completely different beast.
Yeah.
And it's really, really fun, and the amount of side quests and basically
modded side quests, added context.
Yeah.
And what specifically? I'm assuming you'll probably get into it, but like what specific mods do you do and like?
Oh, it's just a mod pack that has like all the big ones. So like Obsidian Weather, change your textures. It's got the Forgotten City, which is obviously the big standalone expansion. Reworked character models. One called, I think it's like Lusty Wenches or something like that. Let's not get to that one. But yeah, it's like there's like romanceable. All your companions are romanceable. New pets, new leveling systems. It's crazy. It's
characters that are romanceable.
All of them, like basically all of them.
What's that mean?
Like you could fuck any of the NPCs. That was the juice option if you want to. It's pretty. Right. I'll be honest. I've not looked at that bit. All my mates have done it because it's fucking stupid. There's also a masturbate button as well. It's a wild time. It's like it gives the spit. No, it's your dragon shouting in places.
You can romance anybody. Romance? You can fuck anybody.
You can seduce.
It sounds really romantic.
It's just like graphics, fucking everything else, missions, blah blah blah. You can fuck everybody.
Listen,
welcome to
PC
game. That is PC game.
The future is now. Do you want to play a 13 or 14-year-old game, but you can fuck everything inside? Change your game.
Well, if you can fuck everything, like,
exactly.
does that include horses, monsters?
No, I don't know about the
different mod
monsters
pack.
thing.
That's a
That's
different
different
mod
mod pack. You're right. Yeah, exactly. It's not included in the base.
Bestiality pack.
Bestiality pack. I haven't delved that far into it, but I'm really enjoying the kind of upgraded graphics. Basically,
Sorry, don't just say that's the ridiculous part. No, I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, I would do that. Listen, I
I
would
don't
do
want to
that.
fuck everyone else.
No, of course not. Listen,
I wouldn't fuck
I'm not
a
an
monster.
animal.
Oh my God.
Like,
I'm not an animal.
Yeah.
I'm a
But if
man.
there was a pack for that,
Exactly. Well, listen, I guess we've got the episode title, haven't we? Bestiality in Skyrim.
bestiality pack and like seems to have a double meaning too. Like.
But yeah, no. So that's been quite fun to play through that. It's a really interesting, neat side quest stuff. A lot of like they've added the more random encounter stuff from Fallout. They also like overhauled the UI a lot of the stuff. So instead of it being the classic Skyrim UI, it's actually the Fallout 4 UI.
Mm.
So when you're looting,
Okay.
it's the one that's just like it pops up on your screen, you can tab through it quickly versus going into a separate screen that pauses the game.
Right.
It's basically they've streamlined a lot of the aspects of the core game to make it more up to par with modern games.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful. It obviously it's Skyrim, so it plays janky as fuck. But it's
But it's part of the charm, right? It's part of the charm.
Yeah, it's part of the charm, part of the Bethesda charm. And
I mean,
yeah, like graphics. I'm never like even if it or gameplay or graphics, if they're a little bit dated, like okay, if I know what I'm playing a 7-year-old game, it's cool. Like
it's when we get to Starfield
everything.
that there won't be that level of forgiveness.
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I mean, that's time over until
But we've got Starfield talk later on.
Anyway, that's a good segue. Anyway, so in terms of what I've been watching,
Yep.
This week as well, I'll be quick on that. I've been catching up with the latest season of Ted Lasso. So
you love that show?
I love this show. It's my favorite show on television, and I believe it's
Ted Massimo, they call it.
Ted Massimo, with my glorious mustache.
After I watched it,
I mean, it's honestly, it's worth your time. It's worth your time. It's worth getting that Apple TV subscription just for that. I'll be honest, I'm quite impressed with Apple's back catalogue now because I originally bought it when the first season Ted Lasso came out, and it was pretty much only that. It was like only that show. And as I said, it just gets better progressively each season. People liked it. It's it's an Emmy Award winning show. The characters are just really well written. It's just like really it's wholesome. It's nice, you know. And after going off dealing with The Last of Us for the past 8 weeks or whatever, it's nice to get something a bit more lighter in tone.
Give us your brief thoughts on Last of Us, Mass. What did you think? Were you pleased?
I thought it was great.
Yeah,
I thought it was great. I was overall pleased with the direction that we're going. It's really funny that it's reignited the debate online of whether Joe was right or wrong or not, which I find really funny after people who played the game like us.
What side are you on, Mass?
I'm on neither. Joe's a horrible person. He's not a good guy. He's never been a good guy, and in my opinion, he is
right.
It's the right decision for him.
Let me rephrase that. If you were in that position, would you have done the same?
I would do the same thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
He's not. People like to misconstrue that he's this good angel. He's not. He's not. He's a grizzled guy who spent 20 years in the apocalypse and has finally found a connection that's worth having in this landscape. Something that he lost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And, and then people are like, but, blah, 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 fucking cured, all that stuff. I'm like, no, listen.
Is it just me that as much as I love the first season, as much as we were saying on our last first episode, which I'll link below, where we talked about it, how I wanted the series to be longer, there's still a part of me, the same way after the first game, I didn't really want a sequel. I kind of thought the first game was perfect and the ending was perfect, and I kind of was happy leaving the characters there. I kind of feel, I know that they're doing a season 2, obviously, we've discussed it, but I would kind of be okay with that just being just a mini-series, 9 episodes, no more. I don't know.
I liked it though.
We'll see.
They ended the same way they ended the game.
Yeah, it's a great ending. It's such a full circle ending.
Exact same.
And I also the plot elements they introduced as well. I was a big fan of. We got to see Ellie's mum. We obviously got Left Behind, which I didn't think was going to necessarily be in this season originally. Just because obviously it's an add-on, and I've actually still never played Left Behind. I've seen.
That's good. That's okay. I mean, it's the episode. It's just the episode.
Exactly.
There's more zombies. There's more infected.
It's I guess that's the biggest thing that came up for me. The lack of infected. How did you feel of that?
But I'm on the side of I think there was just enough zombies for me to keep me placated. It was just enough, because I think it's less a show about if you take away the gameplay elements from, I know that's a weird thing to say from a video game adaptation. If you take away the gameplay elements where you're going through slaughtering infected and bad guys and stuff like that, and you break it down just at the core story elements, there's not that much infected. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Do you know if you take out the core gameplay, basically if you strip the game back to only its narrative, much like the show
cutscenes only.
Cutscenes only. You get infected, but only at the right times. Like for example, with us taking through the museum, or
I still think I don't know. I still think Winter should have some infected, but we've just got all this. We've over all this.
Yeah, my thing is just if they had one more scene, I'd agree.
I agree with you. I think there should have been more. I think there should have been more. I think one
kind of big one small interaction.
Because they bring that bloater in, don't they? And they don't really give you that much payoff for it. He just kind of appears at the ground.
Still a great scene though.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I like more of that.
I like the flips below, by the way, for Last of Us. If you want to just talk about it.
Yeah. Going back to Ted Lasso, it's fantastic. It's written really well. There was a reason why it's Emmy nominated, Emmy winning. It's if you're a football fan, you'll really enjoy it, and if you're not a football fan, you'll still get some enjoyment out of it. In my opinion, because it's a show. It's like I'd say it's like the West Wing, or like The Office, where the paper mill or the White House just are the backdrop to these interesting. Well, The Office less so, but like kind of depending on how you look at it. But these interpersonal dramas that happen with individuals, and I think that's what makes Ted Lasso so good. As much as much way The Last of Us is actually a story of a personal.
No, it's not a zombie show. Yeah, it's
a zombie show. It's not a Walking Dead. Yeah, which some critics don't understand. Anyway, moving on from that, I think it's definitely worth a watch. Also, one of the guy who plays Roy Kent in Ted Lasso is one of the writers on the show, and has also recently wrote the Apple TV series Shrinking, which has Harrison Ford and
Jason Segel.
Jason Segel, yeah.
Watched the first episode,
which I've heard is very good. Anyway. Moving on to what I've been reading, because of course I'm a big book.
Oh my god, someone reads comics
on this podcast? It's novels. It's novels, Jerd. It's actual book.
What have we become?
Not a funny picture book.
Oh gosh.
So I came, probably my last appearance on the main pod, spoke about it a long time ago, many moons ago. At this point, was the Mistborn series of the books, the trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. A cool fantasy epic kind of book. And actually, later on, getting adapted into a TV show, I think, that starts filming later this year. If I'm correct. I think it's an Amazon one as well.
Right.
I'm pretty certain. But, regardless of that, the next series of books, which are affectionately called the Wax and Wane trilogy, basically take place 200 to 300 years after the events of the end of the last trilogy.
Right.
So it goes from being really high fantasy magic, but then you take magic and you put it into an old West Victorian setting.
Oh, interesting.
You see how it affects technology, you do that kind of stuff, and your main character is a descendant from one of the other characters from one of the books.
Same author and everything. Yeah, same writer.
Same writer. Yeah. It's his baby basically. He's a prolific writer. Brandon Sanderson is.
Yeah, maybe saying that.
Yeah, he's prolific, man. He was over lockdown. He wrote like 20 books. It was crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah, literally.
That's like a book every 2 weeks. That's insane.
Yeah. I don't think he wrote 20 fresh ones. I think he finished like 6 or like 10 or something like that.
Still 6 more than anyone else, like most other people.
Exactly right. But his writing style is great. I think, in my opinion, my pals will always say that his best book series is called Stormlight Archives, which is set in another world, but there's ties to this book as well.
Right.
But you can definitely see in comparison to the first book trilogy, where because I'm on the final trilogy of this book, which is it's basically like Sherlock Holmes and Old Western.
Okay.
It's really just really fun. It's like a caper, is the best way to explain it. Like a crime fantasy caper kind of thing, where there's detective work, but people also have abilities to control metals and stuff like that. It's really cool. And it's definitely, I know, for those, whenever the TV show comes out, it'll probably be worth a watch as well. Hopefully, don't ruin it like it did like most book to TV show adaptations.
Yeah.
Exactly. But that's been pretty much me, gents.
Fair enough.
What I've been reading, watching.
Nice. Yeah. Jerd, what about you? What have you been on?
I have been doing stuff. Mainly fighting Captain America. And
yeah, other than putting
this is what I love doing. That's the one thing about these figures. There's so much maneuverability that it is fun to try and go like, how would these two guys fight? What have I been watching? Let me see. was last week we were talking about The Last of Us. Fucking hell, I can't even remember. I went, well, I guess Friday, well, I have a lead up to this.
Mhm.
Ian McKellen was in Mother Goose in the Borgosh Theatre here in Dublin, which is a very... It looks like the first building that they are in the first scene of the X-Men, which I just watched last night. This big futuristic kind of... It's a cool looking...
That's
Well, more outside. Like an art, it's like docks in the area. But so, yeah, it was Ian McKellen. John Bishop was supposed to be in it too, playing. So Ian McKellen is playing Mother Goose, and John Bishop is supposed to be playing Father Goose, and they like run a animal sanctuary, and it's just like I was like, oh, I think it's a straight up panto.
Yeah, it's a panto. Yeah.
Was it not at the Old Vic last year?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Him and John Bishop and Ian McKellen being on Graham Norton.
Yeah, that's right.
And talking about it, but I think John Bishop was on for Doctor Who. And then Ian McKellen was on because he's fucking Ian McKellen.
Well, I was just watching a fucking... I did, because I know Jackman, I think maybe for Days of Future Past, Jackman, McKellen, and Stewart were on the Graham Norton show. But I was watching, what I didn't realise was the Logan promoting episode of the Graham Norton show, and it's just Jackman and Patrick, and then like, oh, we have a voice message from Ian here. It's like,
and it's,
is there room for another mutant on your couch? And then he comes out. And then he comes out. I kind of forgot it. He's like, oh, I'm just came straight from... I don't know, he's up in... I think he was actually up in Scotland. But he's like, and this is the Magneto jacket. And he opens up, it's like this old jacket, but like that I ended up watching, because I was kind of like, I think I want to watch fucking the first X-Men now. But I ended up watching it. It's the jacket, it's the set costume. But he opens it up and it's all like red on the inside, but on one side it's all like, it's got a hole in it. It's all worn away.
It's a 20-year-old
so
jacket.
Funny.
That's amazing.
And so many jokes too. Like, they're making so many jokes about it. Like, and then there's so many racy jokes between the three of them. Now, that's an old episode of Graham Norton. That's not the main event here of my Ian McKellen story. So yeah, John Bishop wasn't in it because I think his mother unfortunately passed away.
That's a shame.
So there was an understudy, which is very sad. Because he seems like a really nice guy. The way, like, the understudy guy, the younger guy, very London. He's in Holby City. He actually makes a joke at one point. I'm in Holby City, and everyone just goes, oh, and then, like, he kind of goes, it shows, or something like, kind of along those lines. Yeah, so the show was on the Friday, but I had a doctor's appointment on the Wednesday, and I didn't cop. I got a few hours off work to go to it. The doctor's office, because it's so hard to get doctors here that I didn't even look it up. The doctor's office is like right around the corner from the theatre, so I was like, I'll just go down and scope it out, kind of like I did when I got to see Hugh Jackman in America. Like, you go and find the stage door and stuff, which I don't even know if we've actually got this on the podcast, because I'm supposed to be editing the New York episode. I'll get on that. But yeah,
whenever that comes out, it's
I might take a look at it today and tomorrow. Today and tomorrow off. So I'll take a look. I have the editing software now. But yeah, so I just very quick summary. I met Hugh Jackman in fucking September. Got to talk to him, and it was a really nice. You know, there was only like me and like maybe 2 or 3 other groups of people there. So I was like, I really actually got to say a thing about my brother, who, you know, loved Wolverine and stuff. So, and thank him for being in the role, and like he was like looking at me and stuff. It was amazing.
That's cool.
And I got a picture of him, just in case. I'm sure I mentioned it slightly on some other pods, but anyway, I was like, right, let's see if I can meet Magneto in the same year I can meet Wolverine. And I went down to Scotland Theatre. Like, I was there a little bit early, and then I walked past it again quickly when I was leaving the doctor's office. But I was like, it's way earlier in the day. I kind of had an idea it was the first day of the play, but I was just walking back into town, and I fucking see him walking on the street. And I didn't really recognize him at first. He's kind of like, I don't know if it's a duffel coat, but big jacket, hat.
You could say that Magneto was incognito.
Oh, nice.
Incognito
Magneto.
Incognito.
Nice. I kind of, yeah. You can see him as like drawn as a 70s. I think he might have had he had a paddy hat the night of the play, but I think he had a paddy hat too. But I just go, serene. A little bit too big. And I kind of like, I didn't necessarily stop, but I kind of did. I guess he was walking my way, and he just kind of like nodded and kept walking, and I was like, he was like, I think I've seen since the play because I saw your man again. I think it's like his assistant or whatever was with him, and I was kind of like, okay, that was a bit awkward, but I didn't. I guess I didn't fully stop, but I was like, I think I just had it in my head what it was like meeting Hugh Jackman, that I get this. I go spoiled for that. I thought I'd get a chance to probably speak to her or whatever. But like, look, he's just.
You got a nod of acknowledgement from Magneto.
Magneto nodded at me. So
Gandalf and Magneto.
Cool.
Exactly.
That was pretty fucking cool. Well, I'll get into the Gandalf bit stuff because I was saying in the chat some funny bits in the play, but
yeah.
I went again on the night. So in the play, so he's in drag for like the whole thing. They threw in some very funny kind of like local, like he referenced the local gay bar. He's like, someone says something about hemorrhoid cream. He's like, I always have my hemorrhoid cream when I'm going to the George. I was like, I said to the lads, I was like, I don't really get that. Like, is it because you've hemorrhoids and you're going to get road that you want to? Like, I don't know. But there was a couple of little like references, like England is going to win the Six Nations, that kind of shit. Like, but there was a couple of times there was maybe like 3 separate references to it, but at least 2 of them. So like someone says "orcs," like awkward, and he just goes. McKellen just like in the full fucking dress and everything just goes Oaks, and he kind of says it in the Gandalf voice because it looks out to the audience, and then the music. I don't know if it's exactly the Lord of the Rings theme, but it's just like
dramatic, sting.
Oaks, and he's gonna look at the ground. But like, he keeps having these kind of PTSD things to Lord of the Rings. That happens twice specifically, and someone else says ring, and he goes, "One ring to rule them all." He goes, the guy from Holby City throws in a "do not pass" joke, and I didn't realize that. I guess it makes sense now because I was watching another clip last night. But he makes some joke about Patrick Stewart. It's like, oh, I wish I never advised Patrick Stewart to follow his dreams and all this. And there's another bit where like the curtain pulls back and there's a bench. And he goes, "Oh look, it's James." It's James Duty Bench.
Oh, fuck.
I didn't realize they're buddies. Like,
yeah.
They what were they in?
They've been on Green Norton together.
Yeah, they've been on Green Norton.
Yeah, there's a clip of the 2 of them. So she had been on, and then McKellen is on at a later point, and Graham was like, "Oh yeah, Judy was telling me like he set a story about the Buckingham Palace," and then like. It was so fucking funny. He said basically they went in, there was some event. He's like, "Oh, it was a bit posh." He goes, "Well, I guess everything in Buckingham Palace is a bit posh." But himself and Judy went in and said like they were in. We're like, we kind of. So I didn't realize because you can actually see a compilation on YouTube of all the dames and all the sirs.
Oh, I forget.
And I didn't like kind of really think of who they would be because I'm sure there's some that aren't actors, but it's like. They're all just like, especially the women. They're all like
Maggie Smith, Judi Dench.
Helen
Mirren.
Who's the one I love? Helen Mirren, yeah. Mommy. But who else? And then the lads, it's Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
It's all just like fucking classy fucking actors. Like, but anyway, they were in something at the Royal Palace and said there was like music playing and they were walking around. They were both like, this room looks kind of familiar. And then after a while, they were like, "This is fucking where you got the dame and I got the sir." It's like, "Oh yeah." It's like, "Oh, where's the throne?" And then like they said then they were dancing already, but like then they were like dancing around trying to look for them, like, and they realized that the king and queen's thrones were behind the band playing. So they went in. They're like, "Yeah, we setting them." The king and queen thrones. Yeah. And then they found the balcony where like the wave from and thing, and was just, like smoking. It's like, "Oh, that fag." Like, he's just smoking, and then he said like there was a light just shining on him. I was like, "Ian, remember you're in Buckingham Palace." But yeah, so what else? There was another joke in it. It was like a very positive kind of LGBTQ. There's one sequence where, what was it? Mother Goose. I can't remember. Caroline, I think, is the name of his character. She wishes for all wealth and fame, and then there's like an interval, and then there's like a montage of all like photoshopped images of Caroline in like fancy dresses and like long hair beside all famous people, pop stars and stuff. It was pretty funny. And it was very like I guess I didn't realize it was pantos. It was very kiddie humor. And there was loads of kids there, and there was the "oh no, it wasn't, oh he's behind you" and all that kind of stuff. But the fucking jokes, the racy ass jokes that were going way over kids' heads, but like were done in such a way that they would definitely go over their heads, but they're so fucking racy. It was crazy. Like, I'm struggling to think any of them specifically now, but there was a lot of like or there's a certain bit where they were talking about a character, and then they kept. Oh, it was a fairy, I think it was. And then it was like, oh, and everything was an innuendo, and at the very end, where it's like, and do you know how to make a fairy? Like, you're kind of expecting to say, you're going to say, come, arrive. But like, McKellen at a certain point was wearing like the UK, the Jerry Halliwell ginger spice dress. But then when turned around was the pride flag on the back. And then there's like two fairies. One's a bad fairy, but at the end they're girls, and it's like, do you want to get married? And then they like smooch and stuff. And then like they're throwing sweets out to the audience and like throwing balls out and stuff. And some of the cast members would go outside. But yeah, just it was
very
weird.
wholesome.
Like,
very nice. Like,
wholesome. And some of the stuff I was a little bit like, oh, that's very kiddie. But like, you've had a fucking pantry, Jerd. This is what you're here for. Like, I was like, look, do the job. If they ask you to cheer, you cheer. Sing along. And people around me weren't. It was really nice. There was like an older couple beside me. And the woman was like, not everything, but every once in a while she'd fucking get into the clapping or the cheering back and stuff. But our area was kind of quiet. And I was trying to like, but I don't think I really got a good heavy belly. He's behind you, but I shut them in, and then like I don't know, it was very Englishy kind of humor, like just the accents and stuff. Like there was a guy who played their kid is like, every time I come on screen, you say, "Hello," or he says like, "Hello, everybody," and "Hiya, Jack" is the response back, and anytime the energy company is mentioned, they go, "The energy company," and then like, did you say the energy company? The energy company? And it just kind of like stuff like that playing up. It was amazing. Then like even McKellen dancing, singing, and then at a certain point within the story, McKellen just gives Shakespeare fucking soliloquy.
Well,
why not? Why not?
I mean, I can't
like everyone's just like, yeah, fucking fair play. Like. I can't try to think anything. Oh, and then afterwards, so I did hang around afterwards, but it was, geez, there was so fucking many people there, and. There was a lot of kids there and stuff. I didn't feel like rushing up. There was a weird thing.
I want to see Magneto. Piss off.
You don't believe in the cause. But fucking. The Facebook Dublin offices are directly across from this theatre. And there was this. I'll see if I can get it up my video. There's like these giant kind of. So like the structure of the building is kind of weird. They're like it goes up along the side, but there's these big 12 by maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 foot glass window things, but they're huge. But one of them, it looked kind of like a normal window, in that, you know, like the window when it opens, it has the latch kind of go into the windowsill. They looked like both those things had broken off, and it was just like it was very windy, like it's been windy here the last few days. It was just kind of like blowing in the wind. So the whole time I was there, I was just looking up at it, and like I actually rang the guards, and I was like, "Here, look, there's the blah 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 thing." And they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll send someone up." No guards ever came. I'll get back to that after. But yeah, then so there was a load of people. He was going around. He wasn't really. His assistant came out first, like, "Look, you're not gonna have time to take a selfie with you. You're not gonna have long to talk to you. He'll sign something if you want. You can get your friend to take a photo of you." Then I was there by myself, so I was like, "Okay, fair enough." But I was kind of just like, I got to see him on the street randomly. Yeah. I don't need to. It was just cool. I was going to look at it. I got a picture of him behind. I can put it up as.
That's your like your core memory, you know, like that thing of
yeah. Well, I got a picture of from behind as like POV following Magneto in the battle. And like, I didn't want to rush, and then he didn't see everybody. Like if he said hello to everybody, I was like, yeah, fair enough. But he didn't say everyone. I was like, I didn't want to be rushing past anyone because I did get to see him already. But yeah, and then when I was walking back into town, I by chance, because I tried to like tweet like I don't know, Garda Dublin just to show them the video thing. I was sure that thing was going to come off and like chop someone in half. But I was walking past and I found like the Dublin Fire Brigade, and I was like just looking. It looked like there was people in. I saw people when I was walking past first, but I didn't realize where it was. And I went back and I was like, oh fuck! I was like, I feel like I should say something about that because that did come off and it fucking really do some damage to someone. But then I saw someone going into the fire brigade. Like he was just in normal clothes, like he was dressed to go out, and he was with his wife, and he was just like unlocking the thing. I was like, oh, do you work there? He's like, yeah. I was like, here, look, I just saw this. Like maybe it's not like. it looks like something that needs to be looked at. And he's like, yeah. It's like I said, I rang the guards. He goes, you rang the guards? I was like, they did nothing, didn't they? And I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah. Oh yeah, they wouldn't give a fuck. Like I was like, okay, fire brigade it is then. But yeah, I don't know if they done anything. Maybe it was grand, but yeah, it was
You done your part.
Yeah, they get to be superhero. But yeah, other than that, then, so yeah, I watched X-Men 1 last night, which in my head, I hadn't seen it in about 6 years. I kind of felt it has a Terminator. Like, look, thinking back from my last rewatch, I was like, it's a little bit Terminator 2, like, and it's stronger than I remember. But then again, watching it last night, I'm like, just certain stylistic choices and some of the action stuff, and then like Magneto is just horrible. Like he's literally
he's a Nazi. Yeah.
Like Wolverine goes, "You're sacrificed. You don't. You." He said something like, "You don't care. Like if he really cared, it'd be you in that thing because like he's sacrificing Rogue." And then Magneto just doesn't have a reply. He just floats off, and you're like, "Oh, yeah." So it's weird to have these films that like people have such reverence for like. Well, they would anyway for McKellen or Patrick Stewart outside of these roles. But when you actually look back at the films in full, you're like, they aren't that good.
Yeah.
But they get moments, and that's the way I look at the cartoon. They've got moments, and you're like, that'd be pretty cool. Or they're still making. They're a big part of why we're fucking. Films are as popular as they are now.
Why we're sitting here today talking about what we're talking
about. Other than that, then I've been reading a few comic books.
Unbelievable.
Like an actual fucking nerd.
Fucking nerd Jerd.
Spider-Man. Zeb Wells is writing the new Spider-Man. It just had the big crossover event that I wasn't particularly gone on, but I still kind of like elements of it. Just trying to get the picture up. It was pretty fucking cool cover. So Zeb Wells was writing like 3 issues during the Dan Slott run. And Spider-Man, if you read that run in full, Spider-Man has to fight this like Mayan god thing that's all like it looks cool as fuck. I actually want to get it. There's a particular image because Chris in the Dan Slott stuff, it's Chris Bacalo. Chris, can you help or Mass?
Yeah, I recognize. Yeah.
The Italian, though, is he?
Which I think either Italian or.
I would have thought so. Just with the it sounds like
I know,
Italian name. Oh shit, I might have charged here, but I'm just going to try and get it up just to show you some of the images. But there's a particular image of his where, so it's 3 issues. It's in the snow. It's set when Spider-Man's in the Avengers. Doctor Strange gets knocked out by some magical thing, and all he does is gives off this rhyme, and it tells him to be there at a certain time. So it's just him and Wolverine. And we're like, yeah, fuck it, let's go. But it's like really heavy snow and stuff. But the art in it is just fucking Bert because it's your man Bachelor. I'm going to say for now. But I just want to get a few of those images up for you. So basically, in the original one, they're warned about this thing happening, and then Spider-Man has to be somewhere, and he thinks he's saving these people from he thinks he's saving these people from these Mayan warriors, like they're all like red eyes and like glowing and shit. But it turns out they were actually trying to stop this scientist who was using like Mayan hieroglyphs as a mathematics, and it's being able to connect with the gods. And he's trying to basically draw this crazy, I think it's like a Mayan god of mischief to get his powers and stuff. But it's a flip. But then Spider-Man actually has to fight that thing, and they end up, whatever they do in the original issues going back, they stop the prophecy from happening. Your man doesn't join with the god. But I just want to show you some of the art because it is fucking great.
To be fair, I was just on the kind of subject of comic books actually as well, Jerd. Some may call them DC's own Spider-Man. Not that no one would call them that. No one would call them
Nightwing.
What?
No, I still have the Booster Gold comics that I'm pretty sure I got a while ago. I still have to read through, which is the
New 52.
It's the 07 Soul series,
right? Okay,
that's written by Jeff Johns.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like just before 52, and stuff like that.
Cool, nice.
Yeah, but I also just thought I'd throw that into the mix. I need to read it. I've also got Mr. Medical as well to read because I bought that hardback years ago.
Oh, who's that written by?
Todd King.
Tom King, Mr.
King.
Miracle.
Yeah, Tom King, Mr. Miracle.
What's the recent one? Okay, maybe. Oh, Mr. Miracle's the fucking red guy. Yeah, the kind of
Yeah.
of a DC
Scott Free.
Oh yeah,
That's his name.
Okay.
Because he escapes
He got away with
without
it.
any
I don't know if this
consequence.
is going to look
Scott Free gets away scot free.
The Spider-Man thing. So that Mayan God thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's a very cool double-page panel where like the creature is shown like on the top panel of the right page. Like, so when you're reading it, when you're looking at it, Spider-Man's just getting hit in the face with a stick, but the other guy on the top panel of the far page, he's hitting him because he can exist outside of time. He basically keeps calling Spider-Man a cave painting. He's like, you're a cave painting, and like, so Spider-Man's smacked in the face, but your man's hitting him from like the next page. And then
all right,
like,
okay. So
Sure.
and it's like Chris Bachelor's art is fucking amazing anyway, but it's just cool to see that in effect there.
So Jerd is actually Canadian, French Canadian. Not
Okay.
yeah.
How do I say that like a French person then? Wouldn't be that much difference, would it?
No, it wouldn't be that much. Bachelor, but yeah, he's
hello.
Hello.
I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna hold off and do an accent. Well, let's call him Chris for now until I learn to say it properly. But then this is coming back up in the Wells run now with Romita. But this is the kind of starting point of the Spider-Man run is just Spider-Man in a crater in like fucking Utah or something. I always say Utah, but it's somewhere random in America or Pennsylvania. I think it is exactly. Pennsylvania is in Utah, or is that?
No, different state.
Okay. But anyway, that's how it starts off, and it's when this run started, it's 6 months later. And so what's explaining is that's what they kind of just more or less did for the most part, because like in this run, Mary Jane is like married with kids, and like they were together because Spencer managed to get them back together finally. But it turns out this doctor it was a doctor who was using the hieroglyphs of the Mayans. He just did some other ritual in prison and like got a load of powers again. Came out, attacked Spider-Man.
Comics are wild, man.
Yep.
Crazy, but like the weird thing about this is that as long as this goes, people seem like from the Spider-Man fan group kind of thing I'm in, or the fan cast of the fan group of the podcast, people seem to really like it. It's like it's explained it, and now what the way it kind of basically made it seem is that the guy kind of basically tainted or marked Spider-Man and Mary Jane for sacrifice, and then they get brought to this other Spider-Man and Mary Jane get brought to this other dimension, and they meet this other guy there who's got like technology and used to work with the scientists, and like the three of them are kind of getting around, just getting by as best they can, and then Spider-Man, like I think it's his own, has like this dimensional thing that the Spider-Verse people use, and he repairs it. And but only one person can get sent back, and he tries to send Mary Jane back, but she kind of like, to make sure he's saved and he can be Spider-Man or whatever, last moment she like puts it on him and he goes back.
Right.
So it's kind of, it seems like Mary Jane was then left in that dimension with that scientist guy surviving for possibly a couple of years because time goes differently there.
Different time dilation, all that kind of stuff.
Maybe had kids and became in love in that time. So it's kind of like some people are like that kind of shit, but it's like, I don't know. It's like some people seem to like, look, it's something kind of different from Mary Jane. If they're not going to fucking use her properly, like they'll probably still get back together anyway. But I don't know. It's just weird. As daft as it sounds, people seem to be taking it well. But the art is really cool. I just want to show you that fucking creature.
Dad's going to put it on the screen now.
No, I'm not.
I'll do it.
I don't do anything work, Mass. You're lucky I put the banner at the bottom.
Can I even get my photos up? 2 seconds now, and actually we'll get.
So you're not committed enough, Dan. Not committed
from there yesterday.
No,
and I was telling you, I read Turtles, the first issue, didn't I?
Oh, we'll get to Turtles news, man. There's some big Turtles news to get to.
There's some big Turtles news.
But other than that, like Murder World, Spider-Man, X-Men. I'm trying to catch up on the Hickman era of X-Men. I haven't got that far.
Are you reading like Golden Blue and stuff like that, or is that too early, or is that
no.
Isn't it?
That's pre-Hickman era.
Yeah.
Why did he do Golden Blue team a couple of years before that?
No, because I remember there was X-Men Blue and X-Men Gold, because Gold was the young team. team.
Young team.
that had got young team that had been sent. That was basically the original X-Men, but they were teenagers. They got sent from the past to the present. That was the last X-Men comic I read. I think.
Oh, that's Bendis. Oh no, for the Hickman era, that's what Krakoa.
Krakoa. Yeah. I couldn't remember. I was thinking
all that kind of stuff. And like what I really want to catch up to it now because Beast has just transitioned into being a full-on villain.
Forget-Me-Not's dead as well.
Huh?
Forget-Me-Not. You know the joke hero, the one who
he's probably back. I think
no, because nobody remembers him, so they can't bring him back.
Oh really?
Using the Krakoa stuff, the cloning pods. They can't bring him back. Literally, I watched a video about it because he was the Deus Ex Machina character where Professor X had to put a mental block, and then when Professor X died, no one remembered them, and Professor X got brought back, but I don't think the mental block was still in place because it's technically a different body. So then he died recently. So then, because nobody has that in place, no one's going to remember to bring him back through the Krakoa, because it doesn't immediately bring all mutants back. They have to be, because it's
a process. You have to there's a waiting list, like
exactly.
And then they actually had to work through it, like because there were certain characters that didn't come back straight away, like they just had to work on it. Like I guess when they came into the story, they were already. I think the way they kind of set it up, they were already doing it a little while. It was a little bit of a time jump.
I saw a really funny meme. Well, obviously, we'll get to what you're doing, Dan, as well. What you're reading, playing, watching, because you've got quite a few things. Yeah, a few. Just to kind of on the X-Men note, and obviously talk about that. One of the funniest things I've seen was on social media. It was like a comic book TikTok creator, and he was like, I can't remember who it's like Polaris or whoever's the guy who creates the mutants' bodies. Like he basically kills himself to use his genetic material.
Proteus.
Yeah, Proteus. Yeah,
Scottishman, I think.
Yeah. And it's a really funny thing about how he's talking to Logan, and he's like, every time I die, I have to remake your metal bones. And he's like, my bones aren't metal. I have a regular skeleton that's coated in metal. And he's like, wait, your bones aren't metal? And then Laura comes in, X-23, and she's like, wait. And he's like, why do I feel so heavy all of a sudden? It's the joke. I don't know if they've actually acknowledged it, but I think that's maybe a thing that they are possibly doing. It's like Wolverine's bones are just metal now; they aren't metal coated.
That's gas. Because I like that's a little bit. I was like, they just remake him without him. Like it's just when they bring in something like that, and then Wolverine just happens to die way more than he ever did before they had that in place. Yeah. I'm like, come on. Like fair enough with the other guys, but like. I don't know. It kind of feels like it'd be a little bit better if they just didn't bring people back using it. Like maybe do it once, at a certain point. Or sorry, that's the point of how it starts. When they're destroying the Super Sentinels, they have to sacrifice themselves to do so, and then they come back from that point. Come back. Other than that, then I don't think I've been indulging much. That TV show Undone by the co-writer of BoJack Horseman. With the Nick Offerman, and it's drawing over live action and it's sci-fi elements. Very good. I actually want to try and maybe finish that second season today. Nice. But other than that, I literally can't think of anything else. Might throw something else in after a while. But...
we'll hop on to Daniel then. What have you been reading, listening, watching, playing?
A bit of batter in. So since we last recorded, I've played and reviewed 2 games. I'll put links to these below. First one. Released last week, and it was WWE 2K23, the newest wrestling game for 2K, and it's pretty great. It takes a lot of what 2K22 did and expands on it. If people don't know, 2K20 was an absolute disaster. 2K20 was a write-off. They skipped 2K21 and then basically reworked the whole game, the whole engine and everything, and then did 2K22. So this is like an expansion of that. But by expansion, I mean expansion. There is a lot to this game. Like, see if you love wrestling games or if you love WWE or any of that shit, you could spend 300 hours in this game easily. Like
customizing stuff. And
there's honestly the amount of customization you can customize: weapons, rings, walkouts, costumes, characters, move sets. Like it's insane, right? And then you've also got
pay-per-views.
You've also got you can make your own tournaments, everything. Your own arenas, you can design your own arenas and all sorts. And then you've also got all these different game modes. You've got My GM, which is kind of like Football Manager but for wrestling. You kind of set up pay-per-view events and you manage wrestlers and stuff. Then you've got the My Rise thing, which is like the story, the campaign mode. With the cheesy cutscenes behind the scenes and stuff. And you've also got two of them based on whether you want to play as a male wrestler or a female wrestler. So there's two different stories in there.
And then there's the kind of creator story, even from 22, there's a kind of creator story involved in that also. Because, like, the My Rise thing, if you make a character and then try and use them in My Rise, you can't.
No, you can't. You could in 22, but you can in 23. That's something that.
But there is then there's a kind of another career mode. There's a general one.
Yeah,
and I think with all of those modes, you can go in and play every game if you want, and you can make games. And
and the manager mode, you can go in and and then you've also got the
My Universe. Is that
My Universe, which is like the cards, like the FIFA Ultimate Team, basically. You open card parts and stuff. I'm not really into that shit, but that's there, and again, that's a whole other thing you can sink hundreds of hours into. And then
is that a big thing for people to think?
That's a huge. It's one of the. It's probably quite. It's niche to some extent. Like not everybody that plays WWE plays it, but the people that play it love it and spend a lot of money on it. And do you know what I mean? It's like a vocal minority type thing, I think.
NBA 2K is quite like that as well. The NBA 2K community is really quite multiplayer community is quite vocal.
Yeah,
a lot of the stuff, and that's because I remember playing a wee bit, and it's brutal, man. It's just fucking so hard to get. It's not user accessible at all, in my opinion.
And then the other main mode is I think it's called the My Legacy, and it's the John Cena kind of going through all those old fights.
Yeah, because that's the you play as the
opponent,
opposite person fighting, and you have to beat John Cena.
It's all those losses. Yep. So like Rey Mysterio was last year, and it was all his wins. You played as Rey Mysterio, all his peaks, and you fought through and won the belts and whatever in WrestleMania and shit. And then you got to John Cena, and he does this wee speech at the start, and he's like, I would rather be judged on my losses because then I can see where I've went wrong, and here are some of my iconic losses. It shows you, the first time he fought and him getting beat by iconic wrestlers. And it's really cool. And he does wee voiceover in between. And then they kind of try and cut between the game and live action. So like you'll get to a certain point in the match and it'll be like, put him in a do a what do you call it, 5-knuckle shuffle. We'll be like, do a 5-knuckle shuffle, and then it will cut to the actual live action clip of John Cena doing the 5-knuckle shuffle. Do you know what I mean? Like I will cut between the two kind of mediums and stuff, and then John Cena will do a wee voiceover. It's cute. I mean, it's corny, it's wrestling, but it's cute. It's well.
Well, I remember the Rey Mysterio one anyway, and it was probably maybe a bit better for him because his costumes are always so different. But in his one, every time you fought a match, you'd unlock a different costume. I'm sure you probably do for Cena, but they're not.
A different jorts and t-shirt combination.
No, Cena started as like It wasn't called John Cena. It was called the Prototype. And he had these tight red shorts on, like red trunks. And then
the Prototype, and then the Doctor Thugonomics as well.
And then he totally redesigned it with the chain gang shit and all that. So. But no, it's great, and also the soundtrack's great. Like, see the actual songs. Apparently, John Cena created the soundtrack, and you've got like Post Malone, Doja Cat, you've got Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like the soundtrack's banging. It's just it's not. There's some of it that's not great. Like the graphics aren't great, to be honest, for a 2023 title. The graphics, the likenesses of some of the wrestlers is decent. Some of them it's really not.
Yeah, I think I've seen that in your review.
There's certain sort of downfalls, but see for the amount that's there, the value for money you're getting with this, it is kind of like it's the most you've ever gotten in one wrestling game, if that makes sense. There's a lot of quantity, and it's not the quality's lacking. It's maybe just not as polished as what you would hope for. It's like the quality is like an 8 out of 10, the quantity is like a 12 out of 10. Do you know what I mean? Like there's so much to it. So it's like there's a wee bit of trade-off. But if you're into wrestling, I say pick it up. I wonder how long it's going to be before they go live service. I think eventually the rest of the WWE games are going to go live service.
FIFA's going that this year. FIFA's going EA Sports. Well, it's not FIFA anymore, but
I don't see them continuing with the yearly releases because that's the other thing. This game, like the amount of actual wrestlers in this game, the amount of fighters that are in this game is insane. Like you've got all the legacy fighters, you've got all the new fighters, you've got it's insane. Like honestly, there's hundreds and hundreds of male and female wrestlers.
Also on top of that as well, like the customizable thing. Because I played a bit of 2K22. Any wrestlers that weren't in the game or ones that you had to pay for,
the community makes
you could find in the community creator.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yep.
Versions.
Fucking Cody, like a spot on Cody Rhodes.
If you want to have John Wick fighting Spider-Man, you can just go in and download him. Like it's there. Yeah. Somebody's done it already. Like it's nuts.
Budget NXT wrestlers as well. Fucking.
Do you know? it's the same when I was playing 2022. They play like, because I imagine the gameplay is mostly the same, just additional stuff and perk or improvements. They play, to my mind, like not always, but sometimes it can be fucking perfect to kind of, and literally poetry in motion. Where it plays like the wrestling matches watch. You know what I mean? Like it has the same vibe. You have the, like, you're kind of wrecked and you nearly do it, and then you do a finisher. I think
I would love to agree with you there, Jerd. Apart from ladder matches, matches in 2K22 are broken, and it was a thing as well. They are, because they go on forever.
Because that's what I think they should do.
Yeah, but like me and my mate were playing. I was playing online with him, right? And it was two of us obviously playing, and we spent, word of a lie, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Playing it, but like, do you know what I mean? Though, but it's not meant to be the actual time of a real length match. Like it can be, but also at the same time, like if I'm putting up a ladder, it should be. I'm putting up a ladder, and I'm trying to go up and get it, and then someone then immediately tries to take down the ladder instead of climbing up it. Like they knock me out, and instead of climbing up the ladder, they take the ladder down and hit someone with it. Like, do you know what I mean? It was stuff like that where it was like the ladder was perfectly set up for someone else to get the money in the bank. And then it would just, I don't know. Like, that was the only issue I had. Like, even sad with that game was literally the money in the bank stuff.
I think the blocker for the win there makes it feel more like an actual wrestling game.
Yeah, but see when it happens
in
8
the
times.
normal match. Yes, but normally that's how it happened in a match. Like, because the other matches, I nearly have to kind of like not try as hard to enjoy the game more, because like sometimes because if you just do two finishers, you can pin. Like very often, not always. I think this game, from what I know from other ones, is a lot better. It's very easy to get the guy to the point where you can pin them. Like, so it's just like, I like that extra challenge, and especially playing like an 8-man ladder match. It goes on for 8, and I fucking love that, man. That's because when you win, then, or if you lose, it feels way more like you don't have as much control over it. Like,
the other major thing that I felt playing this, I don't think I've played. You guys are talking about 2K22. I didn't play 2K22. I don't think I've played a 2K WWE game. Like last time I played it was SmackDown versus Raw. Like it's been a while.
2K, last one I played was like 2K14.
So because I'd been out for so long, there was this weird blend of nostalgia and advancement happening.
Well, because it's my pal was saying this, Dan.
Yeah.
On top of like the control scheme things, obviously we'll probably get to that, but it's actually reverted back to what it used to originally be.
In what sense?
It was so the control scheme now is what it used to be in SmackDown versus Raw.
Right. Okay.
But the old 2K games, it was a completely different control scheme.
Right.
More complicated, wasn't it?
More complicated, and then they reverted back to the easier one.
Don't get me wrong, like you see easier, but there is layers to the combat in this here. There is a lot of variety. Like you've got so many more different grapple moves depending on what part of the ring you're standing in, depending on what button you're hitting, in what order, how quickly you hit it. Like can change what grapple moves you do. Like there's so much variation in it. But coming as somebody that kind of liked wrestling as a child and then kind of didn't pay attention to it for years and years and years. Like, see the opening intro of this game. It shows you then and now, like a wee montage, and then it's showing you like Stone Cold, Undertaker, John Cena, Rey Mysterio, and then now it's all these boys that I don't know who they are. I'm like, who are you, mate? Who are you?
I don't know
like,
any of the new
it makes you feel so old, man. I'm like, oh, and Courtney was watching this. She was like, "You're a then guy, aren't you?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm a then guy." But then you get into the game and it's like, oh, holy shit, it's not just a button masher. There is actually a bit of finesse to this, a bit of technique to this. A slight learning curve to get your head round. Not like, it's not Dark Souls, do you know what I mean? But there's a slight learning curve there. And
there is,
it does take you a minute. Because I expect you just start going, hey, mental on somebody and just start punching. And then I'm like, oh no, there's actually, you need to think about this. It's not just,
Yeah. I'd create a character and there was one move that I don't even remember picking, but no. It just kept happening that any fucking time I go to do a move, I'd do that one move. So I had to kind of... I think it was a mixture of me not liking the move because I didn't pick it, but I found it very hard to get the grappling where I just didn't do that move.
Right.
It was like whenever way I tried to grapple, if it's the harder one or whatever, I nearly had to basically figure out what that move was just so I wouldn't do it. Because it being simplified, it's still... Yeah, I agree with you. It is complicated in its own way.
No, but it's worth a play, man, because there's a lot of value to it. The other game that I have played and reviewed is probably one of my most anticipated of this year, at least for the first half of the year. Resident Evil 4 is out right now. Came out last weekend. The follow-up to Resident Evil 3, which people didn't like, but more treated in the way that Capcom treated Resident Evil 2, and it's incredible. It's an elevation of a game that you already loved as a kid. Do you know what I mean? It's everything you want it to be. It looks incredible. It plays smoothly. It's corny like Resident Evil is, but it's not. They've taken out some of the kind of creepy references that Leon makes to Ashley. It's a modernized version of the best parts of Resident Evil 4.
So I was having a conversation with a friend who's got it and played it, and I was having this distinct thing about like remaster, remake, and all that kind of thing. And I think the new Resident Evil games, like 2 and 3 and two especially, 3's and 4. I think that they, in my mind, they occupy a new, different space. That's like a rebuild, if that makes sense. Because like a lot, I know, like you have like some remakes stuff like that. They keep a lot from the original, and with this, I think it's like almost it's rebuilt from the ground. I know that's remakes are kind of like that, but sometimes you know what I mean. Like it feels like
that's the main difference between this and Resident Evil 2. Because Resident Evil 2, I totally agree with you. Resident Evil 2 was a transformation of that original game because it was an over-the-shoulder camera. They changed the lighting in certain parts of the police station. Like in the original game, the left side, the left wing of the police station wasn't in darkness like it is in the remake. Like there's totally different aspects to the game. Whereas Resident Evil 4, because it's kind of weird because the original Resident Evil 4 was the prototype for everything. For the Resident Evil 2 remake, for Dead Space, do you know what I mean? For everything else, all this other iconic horror that followed it, Resident Evil 4 was the original. So now that we're here and we're doing a remake of that, it's kind of full circle in a way. It is less, I would say it's less of an advancement of Resident Evil 4 as opposed to, the 2 versions of Resident Evil 2. There's more disparity between those, obviously. But it also kind of pays homage, and there is certain things that it leaves alone because it doesn't need to change, because it was great the first time, so it doesn't need to change it. Do you know what I mean? There is certain the aspects that you want to keep, they keep, and the aspects that you think you play the original game, you go, this is a bit dated. They've updated, so that's why I gave it a 10. I loved this game.
There you go.
I thought it was
great.
Yeah, it's great. I'm playing it. I'm on New Game Plus. I'm playing it again. It's phenomenal.
Best game ever. Worst game ever.
What I'm wondering now is I also gave Resident Evil 2 a 2, the remake, and I'm wondering which I prefer. I'm possibly leaning towards this the more I play it, but I did love Resident Evil 2. I don't know. They're both, but I mean, it's a good problem to have getting compared to that game.
Exactly.
I mean, they're both great.
And like, say, I guess that's why I was kind of confused when I saw like the canyon or the jump in the fucking cart thing. Yeah, I need to be able to say what that is easier.
That's where I am right now in New Game Plus. I've just got to the cart part.
So in my head, like when I saw that in the trailer, I was like, oh, that's pretty cheesy. I kind of thought they'd be doing away with the cheese because of where it gets to in 5. But from like, I guess the weird thing about 4 was, I guess it's just different generation and it looks so different, but it felt like a world away from 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
It, like 2 or 3 was PlayStation 1 and 4 was on PS2.
Yep.
So it's hard to kind of quantify the change because it's a whole different team probably at that point. But going from
still Shinji
Resident Evil 2, it was
still Shinji Mikami. Yeah, still same director.
The same guy.
Same director.
Really?
Maybe different animators and stuff, but the same director. Yeah.
Yeah, and was he? Was he on 2, 3, and?
I think he was on the first 5. I think he was on the first 5. He didn't do 6. I think he did the first 5.
Someone else did. I thought so. My understanding, I thought someone directed 1, but then he was maybe just a producer on 2, or was a producer on 1, then became director on 2.
I will look it up and confirm, but I believe.
But the main numbers are generally the same up to 5, is it?
What do you mean the numbers?
Of directors, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is the same director.
Yep. So Mikami began. He's the creator of Resident Evil. The first game was all him. Yeah. He's been here since the start.
Okay. Yeah. Jesus, right.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize.
His last one, let me tell you, his last one was. Oh, he didn't work in Resident Evil 5. Resident Evil 4 was the last one he did.
He went 4, okay.
And then Evil Within was his next major project. Well, Vanquish. Vanquish was great. What underrated game Vanquish was? I just played that. It was great. No, it wasn't. It wasn't on 5, according to Wikipedia. Anyway.
I know.
The difference in cheesiness then for you between Resident Evil 2 remake and Resident Evil, or sorry, let's say Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3 is about the same. Is it noticeably cheesier than them?
It's about the same. It's about the same.
Okay, because I wouldn't really think of Resident Evil 2 and 3 having cheesy moments. I guess it's just the cart jump is the thing that like is a little bit reality breaking. But there is bits in Resident
I more
Evil
mean the
2 where-
dialogue. Do you know what I mean? I more mean the dialogue. The dialogue's the same style. Do you know what I mean? Like that cheesy kind of the stars, that, like the kind of cheesier elements of the Resident Evil
Well,
games
it's still kind of
carries over,
done.
and the way that Ada talks like this weird, like shady government, like cheesy noir. Like it's
Okay.
just there's just certain carries over that just the remakes feel consistent. It feels consistent with 2. It feels like a sequel to 2, probably more so than the original 2 did. It feels more like a direct sequel thing.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes that's more what I'm interested.
It feels
in.
more
I
like
guess
a direct sequel to 2. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, I guess I just saw I saw the canyon jump thing or the fucking cart jump thing, and I was thinking, maybe it does look a bit cheesy, but there is kind of over the top action elements in 2 and 3 anyway.
By that point, by the canyon point, I think that's chapter 11 or something. By that point, you're well in with the cheesiness. Like it's not a tonal shift. Do you know what I mean? Like it fits. It's fine. Like you don't question it.
Yeah.
It's just, but by chapter 11, you're fully in, and you're like, okay, here we go. This is Resident Evil. This is good shit.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like yeah.
Cool. Yeah, looking forward to it now.
Speaking of Resident Evil, this is my wee transition into my movies that I watched last night. Because Quentin was an overnight, so I could watch whatever the hell I wanted. And I played Resident Evil until at midnight, and then I was scrolling Reddit or something, I don't know. And someone was saying, I can't remember where I seen actually. Someone was saying that a movie called The Void, a horror movie that came out a few years ago, is apparently, according to this guy's comment, the best Resident Evil film we've had, even though it's not a Resident Evil film. And I watched it. And by the way, they were spot on. It came out in 2016. It is
watching this right now. I gotta go watch this.
It's absolutely worth a watch. I'll try not to give too much away, but it's like a mix between Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 4, and a wee bit of The Thing. Like if you combine all those, there's a wee bit of The Thing in it. The wee bit of it's set in a hospital rather than a police station, but it's got that vibe of running about an area the way that Resident Evil 2 does. And then you've got a cult going on as well. There's a kind of cult that are involved, kind of like Resident Evil 4. So it's like a blend of.
I think I might have seen this.
It's nuts. Like, see, by the end, it's balls out sci-fi horror. It kind of starts like a bit kind of more ominous and a bit like mystery. By the end, it's like mental, but it's great. It's well worth a watch. It's really good. I hadn't seen it until last night, and it feels there's a cop, there's a doctor, there's certain characters, and the way they interact with each other just feel like Resident Evil characters. Like a game with that kind of slightly cheesy dialogue, but it feels like Resident Evil.
Yeah, I really like that.
It's really good.
I ended up starting Dawn of the Dead, the Snyder one.
Mm-hmm.
Very weird watching. I had 2 funny moments of credits this week. Watching the opening credits for that, going written by James Gunn, directed by Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
The 2 Superman writer-directors now.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And then actually seeing Ki-Hu Kwan in the credits for X-Men 1.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. It's not Ki-Hu Kwan because he only it's only in the last couple of years he took on his birth name.
Sure.
He used to go by John.
Right.
And it was a little bit different, the name.
Right.
John Ki Kwan, I think it was.
Okay.
Which sounds like Don Quixote. But yeah.
I'm not going to go into this movie because it's 20 Days Later, which we've all seen a million times. But I rewatched 20 Days Later as well during the week and seen him at a Pepsi product placement that's in that movie. The amount of times that Cillian Murphy stops for a Pepsi and 20 Days, I'd never noticed it before. I was watching it again. There's like 3 separate moments where there's zombies chasing him and he's like, "Do you want a Pepsi?" And I'm like, "This is weird."
Walking Dead has a really egregious thing for the Hyundai, the green Hyundai.
Yeah, it survived the apocalypse.
Yeah, the whole thing is you can't eat. Like the whole deal is you can't have anything bad happen to people in the green Hyundai.
Yeah,
they get out of it. It's fine, but it's the whole thing. But product place is weird, man. Especially in zombie post-apocalyptic things.
But I don't want to spoil The Void too much for folk that haven't watched it. But if you like Resident Evil, watch The Void, or if you like The Thing.
I never thought that as the Resident Evil.
Really minded. I was literally playing Resident Evil 4, and then I watched this, and I was like, "This could be a Resident Evil film."
Yeah.
The last one I watched was the Void kind of, how on the website I'm using that gives you wee suggestions at the bottom. There was this thing called, this is about 2 a.m. by the time the Void's finished, so it's that time in the night, you're just putting on an ale shite. So there's this film called Carnage Park, and the cover's like a sniper rifle, and I'm like, I'm watching this. what a great decision that was. Honestly, Carnage Park, like I just stumbled across it. It's made. I don't know how I'm going to actually look up who it's made by because it's clearly made by someone who's a massive fan of Quentin Tarantino, and in particular Reservoir Dogs. It's like a mix between Reservoir Dogs and From Dusk Till Dawn. So like it starts with these two bank robbers who've just robbed a bank, and then they end up in the middle of the desert. Just so happens that in the middle of the desert, there's an ex-Vietnam veteran that's PTSD's took its toll, and he's just sniping random people in the desert. So now these two bank robbers are getting shot by this psychotic sniper. So it's a wee bit like Wolf Creek, if you've seen Wolf Creek.
Oh yeah.
But it's like Tarantino meets Wolf Creek. It's quite, it's really quite. It's quite grindhouse. It's really quite gruesome. There's a good few heads exploding, faces exploding. There's a great scene where a guy's leg stuck in a bear trap, and the practical effects, like, it's horrific to watch. And then by the end, it kind of goes. Yeah, it kind of goes full kind of survival horror towards the end, whereas the start it's more like a kind of bank robbery movie. So it's kind of like From Dusk Till Dawn in the way that it kind of
gears
yeah.
Cool.
It's not up there with a Tarantino film. The dialogue and stuff's not obviously on the same level, but it's clearly inspired. There's two scenes in particular that are just Reservoir Dogs. There's a scene where somebody's been shot and they're lying in the back seat holding their stomach while the guy's driving, being like, "Stay with me, man." And then there's another scene where the villain, the guy with the sniper, goes to cut off somebody's ear, and the camera pans away and then pans back, and he's got the ear in his hands. It's like the exact same shot for Reservoir Dogs, when Michael Marsden takes the ear off. Like, there's two points that I was like, this is just Reservoir Dogs. But yeah, it's well worth a watch. If you like Tarantino, if you like kind of Wolf Creek kind of survival horror, it's great. Or just a good grindhouse time.
Speaking of Tarantino,
yeah. Good segue, Mas. Good segue.
There you go. I'm back, baby.
We don't know what he's talking about yet.
Well, speaking of Tarantino, if we're going to slide on to the news section, Dan, unless you have anything else you want to talk about.
No, I'm this week's video. That's got to use.
Yeah. I have one more. I just spent €35 yesterday in a butcher's instead of getting takeaway, and I got some really nice pre-made doner kebabs, garlic cheese chips, fucking big spicy bits of chicken, loads of shit. I wouldn't even be able to eat it all this week. Go to your local butcher. That's what I'm going to be watching.
There we go. The Jerd's endorsement. Go to your local.
Quality food, and it's so tasty. And yeah.
Have you been paid by them? The sponsor on this episode?
Nope.
That was worth making before.
That's how happy I was with my chicken.
It was worth making a segue. Right. Yeah. Anyway, Tarantino. Moving on to the recent news stories of this week. News of the week. Yeah, so we have some interesting Tarantino news that we're going to start off with, which is talking about how Sony being considered a front runner to buy The Movie Critic due to the fact that Tarantino's existing relationship with the studio, including the most recent films such as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I think The Movie Critic is supposed to be Tarantino's next film, I want to say.
It's going to be his last film. Not only his next film, but his last film.
Film.
I think it'll be the last thing he directs. Feature. He directs. I think he'll direct TV. I think he'll write for feature movies. Yeah. And I think he'll write novels. But I don't think he'll direct a movie again. I think
he was tied to that Star Trek TV show, wasn't he? For quite a while.
A film.
As a movie, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, movie. But no, yeah. So it seems very interesting. The Movie Critic's believed to be set in the late 1970s Los Angeles with a female lead at its center. This led some speculation that the film could be about legendary movie critic Pauline Kael.
Yep, Kael.
Who wrote for The New Yorker from 1968 until her retirement in 1991. Tarantino has previously expressed a reverence for Kael, including the 2018 documentary, which she said, The Art of Pauline Kael. And I believe this is a comicbook.com article that I am reading from verbatim in terms of where we're getting our source.
He also, if you listen to his podcast, the Video Archives, recently he's been... he goes back and watches old Grindhouse movies from the 70s, and then he reads the reviews of those movies. Quite a few of them have been Pauline Kael reviews, so he's clearly a massive fan of her work. I do think it will be the sort of thing like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or Inglourious Basterds. It'll be a retelling of a real historical figure. Do you know what I mean? I think it's not going to just be a biopic about Pauline Kael. I think it's going to be, a Tarantino biopic. Also,
she shoots Hitler at the end.
I heard that they are looking at Cate Blanchett for the lead role.
Oh,
she's in talks for it.
Was she nominated for an Oscar recently?
She was nominated for Tar.
Tar,
yeah. So I mean, listen, it's another movie that he's making kind of love letter to Hollywood, like 2 in a row. But Tarantino kind of does that. Like he did 2 westerns in a row. He did his first 2 movies, Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, are like crime movies. So
I mean, if you include my personal favorite, which is True Romance as well, which is he didn't direct, but he wrote on, which is this. Yeah, no, it's the same.
He sold True Romance to make Reservoir Dogs.
The dogs, yeah, but it's the same. You're right. It's the same kind of like he sticks to a genre, then flips the genre on its head a little bit, and then moves on to something else entirely.
Yeah. I mean, it's that kind of thing where, like, I get what he's saying. We only want to do 10 movies because you look at Alfred Hitchcock, you look at what's his name, Brian De Palma. You look at these iconic directors, and then you see their last like 3-4 movies, and you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want that. So I do get what he's saying, but it's kind of like, you could do Kill Bill 3, you could do the Star Trek movie, you could do. Apparently, he's always wanted to do like a straight up horror film. I'd love to see a Tarantino horror film, like scare the shit out of you horror movie. Like, there's so many ideas that he's clearly got, but that's why I think he's just going to probably be a scriptwriter. I think he's just going to be a screenwriter.
Go back to his roots. I think that makes sense.
But I mean, we don't know much else about it, but I'm excited. I'll see anything that does. Like, anything Tarantino's name's on is worth a watch.
I think
arguably it's the writing that is, to my mind, suffers more when people get older. So stick to the directing, maybe.
I would also argue them. I'd say as good as the director is, I'd probably say he is really as a writer. That's what Tarantino is, because he directs because I think he's very precious about his own scripts. But I think he's at the point now where he's kind of over that. And he's probably just maybe going to pick directors that he trusts. I don't know. I think really at his heart, he's an ideas guy. He's a writer. He's a dialogue guy.
I think he seems like the guy with a staying power, though. To be honest with you, like look, that's what he's saying. But like, I've seen worse directors still make decent films in their later ages. Like, so I don't know. Well, look, he's entitled to whatever the fuck he thinks.
I think it's fair to say that Tarantino is an icon of the industry. And moving on from one icon to, sadly, the passing of one recently this week. Lance Reddick passed away.
Yeah,
that sucks, man. I was heavy gutted. Like,
John Wick 4, literally. It's about,
just in theaters. There's some folk that I guess it is like that kind of thing where you don't know how good you've got it until it's gone. Like, Lance Reddick was one of the guys, he always turned up. He was never the leading man, but he was always in stuff and he was always great. And then when
even
he's
in that
gone,
terrible Resident Evil TV show.
Even he was the best thing about that, apparently. And now that he's not going to do anything again, it's like you're missing what you kind of took for granted before, I think.
Yeah.
He was.
I haven't seen.
He had such a great voice. Ever since I first seen him in The Wire and thought he was incredible in that, and everything I've seen him in since, he's just brought such a great,
a very striking character, just in the just right down to how he speaks and like looks, very striking presence. Like
he's playing Hellboy. See the new Hellboy game that's coming out, the Seed thing. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
He's playing Hellboy. He's voicing Hellboy.
Didn't they officially say like, we look forward to showing you his last
one of his last roles? Yeah.
I mean, I actually remember him as well, weirdly enough, from briefly because I watched it when I was probably too young. The TV show Fringe.
Yeah, which he was in that too.
But fantastic actor, man. It's such a loss in the industry, and
he was never bad. He was never in anything that was shit. Like, well, he was never in stuff, but he was never shit. Like,
he always do it to the scenery. As I said, with that Resident Evil TV show when he played Wesker, phenomenal. Like, that TV show was terrible because it definitely wasn't meant to be a Resident Evil TV show. It's the weird full circle thing here about Resident Evil, and it kind of got made into, I think it was like, I don't think it was meant to be a Resident Evil TV show, but they got attached with it because they got the IP. But he was fantastic as Wesker, or the spoilers, the 3 Weskers that show up, the 3 clones.
There you go.
Yeah.
When they cloned Lance Reddick,
Yeah, exactly.
Also, Horizon Zero Dawn. There's a new Horizon game that's just out, and I think he's in that as well because he played Silence.
I mean, wasn't he in Destiny 2? And doesn't he literally plays Destiny?
So the whole thing apparently was the last game he played before he passed was Destiny 2.
Yeah, and the night before he passed, he was playing Destiny. Yeah.
And we, as of
he
yet,
was one of us.
He was one of us, and it's such a. John Wick's obviously phenomenal. And
he was only when he passed. I think he was 60. Like, he looked great.
And still down as natural causes, like.
Yeah, I mean, still horrifically young, far too young.
Yeah, nothing been released yet, as of yet.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think they're probably going to wait
I
off
don't know.
on.
I've always
Just
just
looked like a
assumed
guy
someone
kept himself in
needs to
shape.
see-
Like he was.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't look his age. He looked great.
True.
Like
But yeah,
sucks, man.
6 years of age. Yeah, it is honestly the death of a legend.
There's a very nice clip of him somewhere. I saw it last night, and he's like, it's like a live interview kind of thing. But I can't remember the specifics of it, but probably I'm not going to have enough information for you to be able to Google it to find it. But I'm sure you'll see it coming up. He's kind of talking about like if he was going to die or if he was talking to the angel of death or something. He's like, well, you saved my children because one's a doctor, one's a paramedic. They'll save people's lives. He's like, then you saved my life and blah blah blah. Then you save my dog because if I don't say that, I'm going home with my wife. I'm not fucking crazy. But I can't remember what it was. But it was just a funny kind of speech. But it was just so much character and warmth, and yeah, he just seemed like one of the good guys.
Yeah.
Like, so it's shitty when that happens. Like as you know, it happens, but when it happens and you don't expect it, it's like.
And it's just it's a timing of John Wick. I mean, in a way, it's nice that we can kind of celebrate his legacy with like a huge movie, but you're going to go see John Wick with that in the back of your mind, just being like, oh, we're never going to get him again. Like, we're never going to see this again. It sucks.
Iconic character. I know he doesn't appear that much on the screen, but he is in that series.
Yeah, I mean,
he's a presence.
How many times was his voice used in the trailer? Do you know what I mean? All
Exactly.
all you need to do is watch the trailers to see how much a presence he was. Like 100%.
Yeah. And he did a lot of kind of like Funny or Die sketches.
Yeah,
shit,
yeah.
For his series.
He did the Eric Andre where that's the whole thing with him with Eric Andre, where it's he's the only person who you see, like out of all the people, he's the only one who ever startles him.
Yeah.
When he slams his fist down on the desk, and you just see like the life just leave Eric Andre's body. You're like that, like he's he
had him on the show.
The show. He fucking slams it down, looks at him, and it says, or something along the you're gonna need a new desk or something like that. Like something fucking cold as fuck, and then just leaves. It's great.
That's great. Looping back around to slightly more positive news, and kind of connecting back to Tarantino. So one of the directors that Tarantino might write for could be Eli Roth, since the two of them are buddies. Eli Roth's been on Tarantino's podcast. Obviously, they've worked together on projects. Eli Roth was an Inglourious, so
Bear Jew.
Back when Machete was coming out, Robert Rodriguez's Machete, there was, or even before that, it all goes back to Tarantino. It was during the Grindhouse project, it was during Death Proof and Planet Terror. They did all the fake trailers, one of which being Machete. One of the other fake trailers was Thanksgiving, and it was kind of like a slasher where, you know, people around Thanksgiving would be killed off, you know, in brutal, gruesome ways. Eli Roth is now making that movie. It's actually becoming a thing. Thanksgiving is going to be a feature. Not only that, but Robert Rodriguez was doing a Mandalorian thing, but he was talking about the new season of Mandalorian that he was working on, and he got asked again about Machete Kills, because he did Machete, then Machete Kills, and in Machete Kills we got a fake trailer for Machete Kills Again in space, where Machete had a lightsaber that was a machete, and apparently this could legit be happening now as well. He says every few years he goes to Comic-Cons, fans are screaming for it. He says Danny Trejo's up for it, so he didn't confirm it, but he says that it could be an interesting thing to look at. So it's a possibility. Let's do Machete Kills in space. Why not? This is incredible. I love the best part about the trailer is when he's fighting the villain, you know, of the piece, and he's wearing like a kind of like metal mask. You can't see his face, and then the casting comes up, and it's like Danny Trejo, Lady Gaga. It's like all these people are in Machete Kills, and then at the end it's like the villain played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and under it says actor subject to change. And it's just this Grindhouse trailer. It's great. If you've not seen Machete Kills Again trailer, Machete Kills Again in space, go and watch it. And go and watch the Thanksgiving trailer as well, because I want to make all these films. I love that shit. It's cheesy, but it's fun.
It's good.
Talking about cheesy fun, did you guys see Becky a few years ago?
So this is a story you put into our group chat, and I have no idea what this is in reference to.
Becky is great. Becky is well worth a watch. Becky is the movie, you've probably seen it a few years ago. Kevin James was doing a serious role and playing a villain. He's like a white supremacist type psychopath, and he encounters this family, and the daughter is Becky, and it's kind of like Home Alone, but way more gruesome and brutal. Like, she actually kills people. And Becky, if you've not seen it, it's great. It's worth a watch. It's fun. It's silly. It's violent. The wee girl that played Becky was phenomenal. And now South by Southwest happened, and they announced they're doing a sequel, The Wrath of Becky.
Awesome. I mean, I need to go check it out. Just have a quick
Honestly,
look at
Becky's
the
well
art there
worth a
for it,
watch.
the posters, and it looks pretty good.
Yeah,
I like it.
yeah, it's great. I just want to give them for me because I'm buzzing, man. That sounds cool.
So, I mean, where do we move from here? Talking about little bit in indie films, talking about famous directors and talking about projects that have been in the works for a little while. Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon movie is getting a game adaptation.
Yeah.
On with a ridiculous scale on Netflix.
Is that what Zack Snyder said?
That's what Rebel Moon director Zack Snyder offers a surprise confirmation that Netflix is working on what sounds like its most ambitious game to date. So, in an alternate timeline somewhere out there, when me and Dan were doing news for a different place, I talked about this. I wrote an article about this. The fact that Netflix were possibly going to hard pivot into making video games.
Oh, I did a story for that website about Rebel Moon.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. I did. Because I remember. I had that was a good article as well. Got some good clicks. But that was kind of around that time of when they released a bunch of their stock stuff, like their their shareholders meeting thing and documents and the Netflix were planning to pivot into interactive media, but past the idea of the Flash games that we've got available for stuff like Stranger Things, but actually going into possibly a AAA kind of game. And it's interesting as well because it's a Zack Snyder property, which can either go one of two ways, in my opinion.
I just think it's fascinating from the perspective of afterwards. I think we're either going to have a movie and a game that are just unremarkable in Zack Snyder, or this could be a perfect storm. I mean, see the perfect storm of this was originally Rebel Moon was originally going to be a Star Wars movie before Disney said they didn't want it. So Zack Snyder was like, "Screw you! I'm going to Netflix. I'll make it darker and grittier." And it's became its own kind of universe. We've got an incredible cast like Charlie Hunnam, Jimon Honsu, like that's an amazing cast already on board. And now the fact that Netflix happen to be making games just as this film is kind of in production, it could be a perfect storm timing wise. Like we could get something that could really kind of bring us back to an era. I think it's harkening back to an era where like we had these tie-in games that were actually great and worth playing. They weren't just mobile phone games. Like maybe Netflix could save the video game tie-in. Like what a twist that would be. I'm looking forward to Rebel Moon as well. Like I don't know that much about it, but this concept art looks cool. The cast is good. It's great Star Wars. Like yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I think. I mean, again, Zack Snyder can.
Don't do it. If it goes like all Destiny multiplayer,
give us a service.
Give us a narrative. Give us either a sequel to the movie or a in between or prequel, or do something like that and make
like Riddick.
Yeah,
Butcher Baker.
That was a great tie-in.
Yeah.
Jerd,
I think that's.
Do you care about this? Because you're not a Star Wars guy. You're not.
I might watch it.
Jerd seals approval. Everybody.
I don't know. Like I'm not fucking. I guess I'm not the biggest Star Wars guy. But I will watch the odd. I might have a bit of Star Wars news randomly. But I'm not the biggest Star Wars guy generally, apart from certain things. But I'm not the biggest Zack Snyder guy generally, apart from certain things. But like, look, the last night there, I was like, look, I want to watch the film that I'm going to enjoy. So I put on Evil Dead or Dawn of the Dead. I did fall asleep 5 minutes into it. I've seen it loads of times before, and I still think it's a decent film for what it is. But yeah, look, it could be something interesting. For me, the elements are he kind of does make when some people like I think Dan, you were saying on a recent episode, like sometimes you want a fucking Michael Bay movie. I never want a Michael Bay movie. Occasionally, I want a Zack Snyder movie. Depending on what it is, and it's even just the concept of this could have been a Star Wars story. The fact that it was even there was pitched as a Star Wars story first makes it a bit more interesting.
Definitely.
What are you going to do different? It's funny that it's like literally of Rebel in the title. You're like change it a little bit more than that. Like, come on, like,
I love that.
Even that in itself is a bit of a fuck you. And look, I think the whole situation with Snyder. Whatever about him, and he seems to be a bit of a dick at times, but like he went through a very hard, like losing a child like that. I always found it hard to be funny. Like some of his films, I can shit in them. The DC films, look, they fucking really fucking according to Ben Affleck, he was saying he would have fucking. But that's kind of we'll maybe slide into that bit of news after.
I mean, I had a different segue, which was about adaptation. But Jerd, go ahead if you think the other news story much better.
Well, Affleck thought said he would have topped himself, or he was drinking so he wouldn't throw himself out a window when making the DC films.
Yeah.
I think it seemed to be kind of I didn't read the interview; it's supposed to be quite in depth, but I think it seemed to be more pushing it towards when Whedon was there as opposed to under Snyder.
Yeah.
But he said I guess that's the Ben Affleck. He also said in that same interview that he wouldn't direct something for James Gunn in the DC universe. So he's like, yeah, fair enough.
It wasn't a bitter thing though. It was just, he wishes him well, but nah. Like,
after the experiences
exactly.
that he had, I feel
why would you want a chance going back to he's with JLo now? Why would you want to go back to do a shitty DC film? Like, no thanks. Like,
I think. I mean, unless you have anything else to say about that, because I think it's very cut and dry what was said. It wasn't with any malice. I feel like it makes sense and
as much as I would love to, I would still love to see it, but for the sake of Ben Affleck's mental health, I'm happy not to. Do you know what I mean? Like,
maybe he'll be standing off of the wings for a little bit, and maybe he might come back at a later date to do it, depending on how well.
Maybe Tarantino will write a film that Ben Affleck will direct. Who knows? There you go. That could be a match.
Yeah. But look, even Air
looks great. Air looks great.
That's getting great fucking responses.
Yeah, it looks really good. Yeah. First time it was directed by Matt Damon as well.
Yeah, is it?
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it was very cute to hear how these have a joint bank account.
Yeah.
Yeah. I shared a thing the other day where it's just like there's a picture of him and I know there has been other ones going up the other way where it's like he'd be him and JLo at some award ceremony, he's like smiling, and then he just looks really fucking depressed afterwards. But there was one, and now there was lots of people they're on a runway taking pictures of him, but he's just there, arm around JLo, she's looking amazing. And he just looks like he gives a genuine smile, from the way it's just he kind of looks quite serious, and then he just smiles, but it looks like it's realized. I'm I don't know. I see people commenting, "Oh, he looks sad again," and I was like, he's literally, it feels genuine.
He's just enjoying himself, He's living his life.
Yeah. I wish him all the best. He seems like a good dude.
Of course.
Some famous people seem to keep a certain element of their relatability. Like Chris Rock, would probably be famous from his early 20s. He just seems like one of the lads. Obviously, he's American and he's in a different country and everything.
I think it's got a lot to do with where you're from. I think because Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are from a certain part of America, I think they're more grounded. Whereas, I think guys from New York as well, like Chris Rock, I think they're the same. I think it just depends on where you're from. I don't know. I think that's got a lot to do with it.
Or where you... I think a certain amount of your parents and how, where you're born and stuff, that'll land. No matter how successful you get, I think some people can just stick.
Speaking of, this is a really terrible segue, but I'm going to do it anyway.
I'm actually
speaking about the way people are brought up in life and how that impacts them, as individuals and their relatability. The ultimate father-son story that is Frankenstein is getting another remake. By
that was tenuous.
That wasn't tenuous. That was not a segment. That was just you said words and then you said another thing. We don't need to. Yeah, we don't need.
I had the perfect segue.
And here's another thing we should say and talk about.
Jerd, can I talk about something? I had the perfect segue when we were talking about video games because I was going to move on to all the other video game stories, and you derailed it by talking about Ben Affleck. So
that's why I don't even try with segues anymore. That's not.
How would you like them apples?
I will.
Just have a tick box. We'll get there. Okay.
Listen, I think it counts. It counts. The ultimate father-son story that is Frankenstein.
I mean, we don't know much about this, but the cast is. Something, right? The cast.
Yeah. It's already looking like a promising project, especially with Del Toro being behind the wheel. And he recently, and it's an interesting thing as well. I wonder if it's going to be another stop motion thing, or if it's going to be live action.
I think it'll be in the style of the Cabinet of Curiosities thing that you did.
Yeah.
I think it'll be that sort of world, that sort of.
So obviously we had the Pinocchio film as well.
I haven't seen that either.
Which apparently
I think Pinocchio was somewhat of a one-off for him. I don't see him being an animated guy now. I think this would definitely be more like Cabinet of Curiosities, just kind of straight up horror.
I think sometimes when you see a cast, if you just say, "Oh, it's animated," you're like, "All right."
Yeah.
It's usually you're watching something animated, then you hear the cast, it's a plus.
Yeah.
But if you hear about the cast and then you hear it's animated,
it's a waste.
Like,
I get it.
It's not the same. I want to see them. So it's Garfield is possibly Dr. Frankenstein.
Yes.
And who's the other guy again?
It's Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
So Oscar Isaac, is he going to be the monster? And
I would
Garfield's
say
going to be the Frankenstein?
Mia Goth would already in my mind looks like she would be
the bride,
completely suited to be Frankenstein's bride.
Yeah,
the white temples going up. She's just as soon as I see it, I was like, yes, I can totally picture her that way.
She's such a weird actor, man. Like her performances are so polarizing.
She's great. I think she's great. I've not seen Infinity Pool yet.
No, I mean, like,
Infinity Pool.
No. What I mean is it's in a good way, like polarizing. It's like for example, in X, she plays two roles that are completely opposed to each other.
Oh, not that.
Sorry, not polarizing. More like like how big the switch is, the juxtapose. The polarizing nature of the roles. Her being. Spoilers for X being.
It's just her range, and she writes. She wrote some apparel. Like I didn't know that till recently that she helped write apparel.
Which is only coming out.
X,
which is coming out at the end of this month, I think. It's not even out here in the UK, even though it's been out in the US for like 6 months.
Yeah.
But I think her range is fantastic. That's a better way to use it.
And she's also keeping Shia LaBeouf afloat because they've just had a kid together, and apparently she's about the only thing that's actually keeping him from being a complete psychopath. I was watching that. There's a YouTube channel called Philion. It's like Phil, like Phillion.
Yeah.
He done an Ezra Miller video recently, which was really interesting, and he did one on Shia LaBeouf. And well worth a watch if you just want a kind of hour documentary. He's got loads. He does loads of different kind of celebrity stories, but in a way that's. He presents the facts as they are. It's a kind of retrospective history, and then he gives his opinion, but it feels separate. Does that make sense? Like it doesn't feel like a biased documentary. It feels like an unbiased documentary, and then he's like, and then this is kind of why I think this. Do you know what I mean?
It gets like
quite well. So it's got
opinion with fact.
Philion. He's worth a watch, man. He's good.
Yeah. Well, obviously there's not a lot to go on at the moment of that, other than it being a remake of an iconic horror franchise. Here I go again. And you know who is part of an iconic horror franchise is he's all over the place at the moment. Who
Massimo?
A fan favorite of this podcast, Tony Todd. The Candyman himself.
Yes.
Is going to be the voice of Venom.
Friend of the show, Tony Todd.
Listen, Tony, you want to come on? Talk to us about movies.
Join us for your hot tub.
Also, your hot tub. You won't be assassinated in by the higher ups at Marvel and Insomniac. We possibly have a leaked release date for Marvel Spider-Man 2, where Tony Todd, who is the Venom voice and mocap actor, has said that it looks like it's going to be September.
Yes,
obviously an iconic horror veteran with Candyman, and plays a very creepy and like dominating presence in a lot of scenes here, and like almost kind of like a very similar, and the way that Lance Reddick is like very steals the scene when he's in it.
And like we were saying before in the pre-show, he'd have been such a great live action Venom for Raimi, instead of Topher. Yeah. I mean, Topher was what it was, but can you imagine Tony Todd doing it like in 2005?
You made the great point about the fact that like it's supposed to be the opposite of Peter Parker. It's supposed to be less live and meant to be more like a brick shit house. Like a buff dude. And I think,
I'm going to say that chat. I still kind of understand why they went for Topher.
He was a Rick Astley one.
But I think they were going for the other side of the coin.
It wasn't Topher's fault. Topher's great. I'm not having a go at him. But just that's cool.
I just mean I can appreciate I can see why what they were going for. They're like, okay, it doesn't.
But it didn't work.
I think it's a valid concept. Didn't work. Yeah, but it's a valid concept. I think.
Yeah, exactly.
But listen, Spider-Man 2. I mean, we kind of knew it was coming in December, right? September, sorry. Like, pretty.
I mean, lines up basically roughly where the last one, because the last one dropped. I think was the end of August, beginning of September.
Yeah, around about the same time. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you've also, of course, you've got the long. I mean, not long awaited, but like the Wolverine game as well that will be brought out by Insomniac, and who knows when that's going to be.
Maybe we'll get a tease for Wolverine in this game. That'd be cool.
I really hope we do.
Or something, a billboard. I don't know, just a reference.
I think I saw something where it was like they're doing it for Spider-Man. They might be doing it for Wolverine, but they might be like experimenting with different ways of audio capture or something like that.
Like the spatial audio for the PlayStation kind of vibe, the controller, the haptic stuff.
Possibly, I'm not sure. I just saw that somewhere. I didn't really understand what that could have meant. It was like better microphones.
They're just like more sound. More overall. So.
Yeah, well, no, but they seem to be saying it because there is some. Well, maybe it is playing in with that, but sure, like generally, if I'm playing, if my headset hooks up to my controller, so the mic sounds won't add much. They do so like the Resi 4 demo. They add a lot because when you're picking up your man's walkie-talkie, it's like that. I fucking forgot. I was playing Resident Evil. Maybe I said that last week.
The demo.
Dan was, no, but Dan, was I telling you? Dan, I wasn't telling you I was playing Resident Evil 4 for the VR.
Oh, cool, nice.
Cool. I can't really play VR. It messes with the back of I get this tingling in the back of my brain. It's my 5G senses going mad. It's like a motion thing. It's how I some of the lads said they had it a little bit when they started, but I literally feel like I'm moving.
Oh, yeah, motion sickness. It affects everybody different, but it's definitely there.
Yeah.
But I'm interested because you make a point there, Jerd, though, about the fact that a lot of people will play with headphones. So, like, how is experimenting with audio going to be that useful?
Speaking of Spider-Man in VR, there's the Spider-Man experience for Far From Home. Is free on the PS Store, and I played it in PSVR 2, and as amazing as it is, and it really is, you're swinging about New York in first person as Spider-Man. It's as great as it sounds. Oh my god, is it vomit inducing? Like, you can only play it for like maybe 20 minutes before you're like, right, I need a
Oh yeah,
that's great. It's a lot of fun, but Jesus Christ, like it does take a lot out of you. You're like,
even just the regular games, like Resi, like you're moving forward, it's just like, oh. But I kept having a weird thing where like I was trying to put, because it's not the PlayStation one. What's the other one?
Vive.
Oculus.
Oculus, yeah. So you literally have to go back behind your back to pull out the secondary weapon, like the shotgun, and then you have to hold it. But like I had things where like I was pulling the trigger, it just wasn't working, or it wasn't reloading and stuff. But the detail, because the guns, I'd imagine. Well, maybe because you see them in the menu and stuff, it felt like they put in new models for the guns for the VR version. Because like they had like fingerprints, smudges and stuff on them.
Oh, that's cool.
But like when you're walking, I just got to the bit where there's a little maze and all the dogs come out. But like say, a very interesting thing about that, in the maze is made up of trees. There's a gap between the greenery of the trees and the actual like the pot they're in. Yeah. So you could actually duck down and see, like I could hear the dogs. Like I didn't see them, but in certain places you'd be able to see someone where you wouldn't be able to see them.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And like there's banisters say on the outside, like a marble kind of. I guess it's a banister, but it's outside. That didn't look as detailed, but the guns looked like, and even just holding first aid spray in my hand was amazing. Like, so it'd be fun to mess around with. But yeah, I don't think it's... Yeah, so Dan, I came up with that because I'd heard that Spider-Man and Wolverine potentially would be using experimenting with new audio capturing equipment for the games.
Right.
So I guess we were just trying to figure out what that could have been, which is VR.
Yeah. Mass, time in another video game story.
Well, speaking about... Oh, Jesus Christ. What have I got?
He's lost the voice.
It's gone now. It's gone. Well, I can go. You go for one.
I was going to try to help you out. We were talking about Last of Us at the start of the show, so let's go back there.
Segue back. Yep.
Big question about sort of what Naughty Dog are going to do next. We know that they're doing the Last of Us multiplayer game, an online experience called Factions. After that, they were kind of discussing part 3. But he was on Kind of Funny Gamescast, and they asked him, and he was like, "Listen, fans are asking me all the time. We'll do it if we have an idea, but as of just now, we don't know if we do." Sort of thing. I think they've tried a few, because I've heard in the past they've had a few ideas, started writing it, and then it's been scrapped and stuff. But apparently they're looking at doing something fantasy. Apparently, Naughty Dog are looking at kind of going into a different genre and doing something, Well, I guess Jack and Daxter's kind of fantasy, so I guess I can return to that vibe.
Fantasy steampunk kind of vibe.
But in this, with how Naughty Dog's expanded and progressed since Jack and Daxter, see them do something like a narrative adventure in a different era, a different setting, a different genre, like that sounds fascinating. Like, I mean,
it'll be a licensed IP. I wonder if they'll get something that's a license, like a
I
pre-existing
don't.
fantasy license.
I don't think. Well, no, unless they can adapt it. I think it would be an adaptation,
Yeah.
because I do think at the end of the day, Naughty Dog are storytellers. I think that's what they do, and I don't see them just retelling another story that's been done. I think it'll either be something original or it'll be based on something, but it'll be their own version of it.
Fingers crossed for Uncharted 5, gentlemen. No,
They'll do it eventually.
be,
They'll do it eventually.
they'll do it eventually, but yeah, no, I think that would be a shock. Yeah, no, I'm excited for that. I think Naughty Dog produce a lot of high quality games. Same as kind of Rockstar, where they come out once every few years and they capture the zeitgeist and the public attention a lot of time. And I think it's
for better or worse.
For better or worse.
Speaking of, we were kind of talking about Skyrim and Bethesda earlier. Speaking of, I'm seeing how Resident Evil is one of my most anticipated of the year, as is Spider-Man. The other big one for me this year is Starfield. I think Mass is hyped for this as well. We've actually like Spider-Man. It's also coming in September the 6th.
It's interesting that they chose that kind of same-ish
window. Yeah. I'm wondering. I think we were talking about this in the chat. Like, how's that going to affect each other? Do you know what I mean? Are we going to get?
I'll be honest. I think Spider-Man's the front runner because I think if Spider-Man gets good reviews,
Spider-Man's a proven concept. Do you know what I mean? It's a known IP, and the first one was great. Whereas Starfield's fallen on from a few ropey games that Bethesda made.
Like,
it's not as sure of a thing. Do you know what I mean? It's not like a sure thing.
Kind of Outworld style, or Fallout, or Skyrim in space, or whatever kind of vibe they're trying to go with. I'm excited for that because I think it'll be if it works, and it's another cap in Bethesda's hat, or another IP they can just generate money with. But also no ill will to Bethesda, but I hope that they do. I hope they bring at least a quality product, unlike some of the most, as you said, more recent ropey releases.
Yeah. Last piece of news for the show, last piece of video game news is probably, for me, the most exciting news of the week.
Yeah.
Boys, we're getting a proper Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game. It's going to be dark.
Yeah,
it's going to be narrative-based, and it's going to be based in the last Ronin. And
fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's inspired by God of War. Like, everything I'm hearing, I'm like, yes. The only part of this that I'm like, kind of unexpected, I always thought Rocksteady would be perfect for a teenage. After playing the Arkham series, I always wanted to see them doing a TMNT game. But seeing what Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is now, I'm kind of glad it's all Rocksteady. But I mean, listen, like, is this not just everything that you wanted? Like, as a win, like,
it's gonna be.
I think like if it was the four of them.
I think it works better though, because obviously you're getting the. I mean, I think it works. I think it definitely works better though, like from a perspective of having like a character with multiple play styles. Like it's easier just to give one turtle all four four weapons. Your sai and.
I also think.
Oh, that actually works in Last Ronin. He has the four.
I've not read Last Ronin, but
I'm like, yeah, he has like Mikey. I'm trying to remember which one it is. But
I think it's Mikey.
He has like. Has Donatello's.
Well, Mikey was my favourite, so there you go.
I think the fact I've also wanted for years, as much as the other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games, people love them. I've always wanted to see one that's a bit more dark and a bit more brutal. So the fact that The Last Ronin is that story, based along with the fact, I mean, the Guardians game, as good as it was, a lot of people kind of were like, well, why do you only play as Star-Lord? Whereas here, you're only playing as one turtle because the other three are dead. Do you know what I mean? That's a definitive reason for, like, right from the get-go, a justified story reason for this is why you're playing as one of them. Do you know what I mean? It's not like a game with four of them, but you only get to play as one. Do you know what I mean? There's an actual narrative.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of Turtle Fever recently, going around. You've got the animated one, the kind of Spider-Verse style animated one that's got all the looks really, really good.
The animation looks cool, yeah.
Yeah, looks like very
that animation style it's getting a wee bit saturated. I think it's kind of losing its charm a bit. Like Puss in Boots did that, but it's cool. I mean, it looks great. But
I don't know. I just think it just looks good. That I wouldn't. To me, like I think some people were saying that, like even about the turtles, they kind of added elements, or there's more inks kind of to it or something. I don't know. I'm still quite happy with that. I thought it looked great. I think
is that as done with the news?
Man. I mean, listen, when all that stuff gets more news, like the Ninja Turtles game and the Tarantino film, we'll be back to talk about it. But
report.
For now, I think we'll wrap up, lads. Thanks for joining us.
As always.
Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. Drop us a comment. Let us know.
Rate us 5 stars and all.
Let us know what your favourite NSFW Skyrim mods are.
Exactly. Just so we know, bestiality, you know, up there at the top.
Reality pack.
Check out the
That's our new segment.
Last one's video below, and I'll put my reviews for Res Evil and 2K23.
Rate us 5 stars on all your podcast providers. Do the thing.
Do that too.
On the socials.
Or rate us 1 star.
No, don't. That's worse.
That's
better not
This man does not represent us. He's obviously never worked in customer service. One is not a. Don't do that. But remember, Daddy's got a brand new SmackDown.
Literally, because there's a new WWE game this week.
See you the next page.
See you next page.
Love it.